Did you really think that we were done with Christopher Nolan that easy? Oh no. We've watched all 11 films. I've covered all of them on my channel during the Christopher Nolan Compendium. Now it's time to do the best thing. Let's rank all 11 Christopher Nolan films, including Tenet. So before I get into this list of all 11 Christopher Nolan films ranked, I want to know your guys' thoughts down below. And let's start off with number 11. Number 11 should be no surprise to anybody, and that is Following, Christopher Nolan's debut film. Look, it's not a bad directorial debut. I actually really think it's quite good to be a directorial debut. The problem I have with this movie, it's too short. The characters have no depth or substance to them, and you can never get on the side with these characters. These are the lowest of low in terms of who these people are as human beings. And even the main character in this film, a little too indulgent in certain activities that really makes you root against this character. He has a weird hobby that leads him down a dark and destructive path. I will say that this is the movie that kind of started that Nolan twist that we get with every single Nolan film now, which is pretty much inevitable and something that we didn't see coming. And so I really do appreciate that aspect of it. My number 10 is Insomnia. Great film. I wish I could put this higher on my list. I like the other 9 more. This is a really good movie, and it's very underrated for Nolan. It's a film that I didn't really know much about going in. All I knew is Al Pacino and Robin Williams were in this film, and they play polar opposites of each other. But yet they kind of experience the same thing, but yet one story is more solidified in its reality than another. Robin Williams' character is truly mad in this film, but yet you root for him because it's Robin Williams. He gives a phenomenal performance in this movie that to me was heart-pounding. I literally was on the edge of my seat the entire time. I love the symbolism that they use with the light reflecting the atmosphere and the mood of these characters, especially when it comes to sleep and especially when it comes to, well, insomnia. This is a movie that I think is lit extremely well. It's a movie that doesn't feel necessarily what Nolan does now, but it was groundbreaking for what he would eventually do, especially when it comes to character development and especially when it comes to giving us a little bit more grit within these films. My number 9 is probably going to come as a surprise to everybody, and that is Batman Begins. I love Batman Begins. Do not get me wrong. I think it's a fantastic film. It's a little too slow for me. With that being said, I do love Christian Bale in this performance. I think this is probably his standout moment as Bruce Wayne and Batman. I think this is the definitive film for him, but I think the movie takes way too long setting up the backstory behind this broken man, Bruce Wayne, who we all know from a lot of different iterations that we've seen, whether it be from comic books, movies, television, whatever it may be. I feel like they took way too long with the setup when they didn't necessarily need to. My number 8 is going to be The Dark Knight Rises. So this kind of falls in the same category as Batman Begins. I actually like this movie a little bit more than Batman Begins. I know it's like not the right thing to say, and I know that a lot of people are probably going to dislike this video right now, so I apologize. But I will say this. What I like about The Dark Knight Rises is number 1, I love Tom Hardy as Bane. I think he's the perfect casting of this character. He's very menacing, and I think that what he brings to this film, I think, is a lot more intimidating than what Liam Neeson's Ra's al Ghul brought to Batman Begins. I also really love the look of this film. This movie is beautiful. It's dark, still got that grittiness of a Nolan film, but it still has a little bit of that glossiness flair that was missing from movies like The Dark Knight and Batman Begins. And I really think that this is a movie that is a stepping stone for what Nolan would kind of do with movies like Tenet and Dunkirk, where he's able to add a lot of mixture of both night and day light, where it's kind of almost interlapping one with another. I love the action in this movie. It does take a while to get reintroduced into this world. There's a lot going on. Some things make sense, some things don't make sense. But ultimately, I just love being invested in this Gotham story. And I actually really think that Batman is really at hard times because he has to face someone as menacing and as threatening as Bane. My number 7 is Memento. Guy Pearce is phenomenal in this film. This is a movie that the editing probably made this movie hit number 7 on this ranking. If it wasn't for the editing of this film, this movie probably wouldn't be nearly as good. I do not want to see this movie chronologically because this movie works so well by you not knowing the beginning of this story. You don't even know what happened for the character to get to where he ended up because you start from the end. And that's brilliant. That is brilliant. The idea that this guy who has a short-term memory loss, the movie makes you feel like him. It makes you feel just like him because of his issue that he has with a short-term memory. We also have that issue watching the film. And that's why the movie goes backwards instead of forwards. It's brilliant. That absolutely, to me, makes this movie so much more enjoyable. It makes the movie so good. And not only that, I think the performances in this movie are great and the story is really good as well. And I will say this might be a bold statement. This might be one of Nolan's best narrative films ever. I'm not saying it's his best. I think it is one of his best. My number 6 is the brand new 2020 release, Tenet. I loved Tenet when I first saw it. I did have an issue with the movie though. It really takes you at the beginning of this film into the action. There's no setup and you're confused. And talking with other people about it that had seen it, mostly my good friend Nathan Hale Movies and also Jackson, who you saw when we did a couple live streams together, I realized that Nolan didn't necessarily add the character depth that I think we deserved for this film. Now, granted, I love this movie. I really love the visuals of this film. This is probably the best looking Nolan film, and the movie's able to add elements from other films, especially the one that I just mentioned, Memento, in terms of editing. But the issue I have with this movie is not just the character depth, but the movie itself sometimes feel like it's smarter than it actually is. And I'm not saying Nolan's not smart. What I'm saying is the movie thinks almost a little too highly of itself. And I think that that's an issue because now Nolan doesn't ever get self-indulgent, which I really respect as a filmmaker, but there is something about giving us a film that is highly touted for a specific reason because it brings something new in terms of scope and dynamic, but with this film, it almost kind of lost that midway. This movie can be very confusing. You have to have multiple viewings of this film, and I think that that's a little bit of a disservice from Nolan. I don't know if he was rushed. I don't know if really the film just never kind of narratively got there. But again, it's still a spectacle to watch, and I truly do love it, and can't wait to see it again. My number 5 is The Prestige. I love this movie. Number 1, Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale are amazing in this film, especially Christian Bale. Oh my gosh, his performance is great. The twists in this movie, mind-blowing. David Bowie's in this film. I didn't even know that was David Bowie. That was like the biggest twist to me. Afterwards, when I found out that David Bowie was in this movie, I was like, wait, what? The competition between Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale's characters is so real. I mean, you can kind of see that in everyday life, right? Where you have someone who's kind of like your enemy. You're at odds with this person. You're their rival all the time. And you want to be better than that person. You want to make that person look like a fool. I've been there, man. High school was like that in certain moments of, my high school experience. But this movie is able to show something in such a real, believable, but yet fictional way, and I loved it. I was engrossed by this movie the entire time. I was captivated. Prestige is amazing. I wish it was higher on this list, but I love the other 4 more. My number 4, Dunkirk. Dunkirk, I love this movie. It's a very different Nolan film. This is a movie that's not enriched with character development nor dialogue, but it's a movie that is more than a war film, like I said in my Dunkirk compendium video. Look, this is a movie that takes you into the actual experience of Dunkirk. That's what makes this movie riveting. That's what makes this movie terrifying to me. This is one of the best, most genius thrillers I've ever seen. And you may say it's not a thriller. Oh, it is. It is, because it gives you that war experience without you actually having to go to war. How brilliant is that? Nolan does something truly magical here. This is another gorgeous film by Nolan. And oh my gosh, he shows that he can do any genre, and he can just excel in it. And Dunkirk really lived up to the hype for me. I love Dunkirk. It is still, to this day, one of my favorite war films of all time. And yeah, Nolan just is a master. Number 3, Interstellar. I saw this movie on the big screen finally, literally a month ago when theaters opened up. And what an experience. What an experience. This movie is absolutely brilliant. I don't still like a lot of what they do with the ending. I'm still not the biggest fan about it. But it doesn't tear me up. I can live with that ending because here's the thing. The rest of the movie is incredible. It is a spectacle to watch. That's the thing. This is like the cake of the Christopher Nolan filmography. You want to see the best visuals, the biggest visuals by Nolan, watch Interstellar on the biggest screen possible in the loudest surround sound. This is an experience of a film. Everything from this crew first going to space to the ending scene, it's touching in a way. And I literally had goosebumps down my entire back when this movie ended. And I value this film even more. I don't think this movie would have ended up number 3 if it wasn't for that theater experience, because it's a totally different ballgame. My number 2 is The Dark Knight, my favorite Batman movie of all time. Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker is my all-time favorite performance. There's not one other performance to me that I love more. He's so freaking good in this movie, and it's because of Nolan's direction as well as Heath Ledger's ability. This movie was not afraid to go dark. It wasn't afraid to get out of the conventional comic book route and do something completely different, something that was a game changer for this genre. This is a movie that, if we didn't have The Dark Knight, I feel like we wouldn't have had Endgame, or we wouldn't have had movies like Logan, or other movies that really wanted to diversify the genre, make it a little different, and really take risks. And that's what I appreciate The Dark Knight for, because this movie, it really goes on another level. Yes, it's PG-13, but oh my gosh, is it like very close to that border of R with some of the things that they show. This is a psychological thriller that can be considered scary for kids. I mean, I look at Heath Ledger's performance and oh my gosh, like that's a scary performance. It's so good. If I was young and I watched that, I would be horrified. And this to me is the best Batman film of all time. The action is visceral. The stakes are real. It's just an incredible film that I always look forward to rewatching. If I said all these great things about The Dark Knight, how did it not end up as my number 1 film? Well, it's very simple. My number 1 movie, process of elimination, you figured it out. Inception. That's right. Inception and Dark Knight are 2 of my favorite films of all time. I like Inception more, and here's the reason why. This movie is one of the most brilliant films I've ever seen. Case in point. This is a movie that shows, hey audience, I believe in you. Do you want to create your own ending? Here you go. This is the most ambiguous film ever. It's ambitious in every sense of the word, and it's absolutely brilliant because, again, Nolan knows that us as an audience, we are capable individuals. We can make decisions for ourselves on what is real and what is not. This movie allows us to do that. And not only that, this is my favorite score in any Nolan film, hands down. The score is incredible. I still have it in my head. Every single time I watch this movie, like, the score gets better and better for me. That's it. That's all I need to say, really. I love this movie. It's a masterpiece in my eyes. Masterpiece. Anyway, guys, that is my list. What did you guys think of it? Let me know down below in the comments section. I'm sure I'm going to get some hate for some of my picks, but you have to understand that this is my list. It's just my opinion. My opinion doesn't really mean anything, but hey, you know, I just like getting my voice out there. Anyway, guys, if you like this video, make sure you click that thumbs up button. It would really mean a lot to me. I'd really appreciate it. Consider hitting the subscribe button down below to join this community. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you guys hit my social links. Go follow me on Twitch. Why not? I stream like 3 or 4, maybe 5 times a week. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.